Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. In my last video update on Monday, I mentioned to anticipate a correction around the full moon, specifically for Bitcoin to retest 40K before any more bullish continuation, and as of yesterday, we hit those targets. So in today's video, I'll be sharing my thoughts on how the rest of the week will play out for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP with some technical analysis, and I'll also be sharing some numerology connections for how I was able to foresee the price movements for Bitcoin moving up to 44K before moving back down to 40K around this full moon we had on February 16th. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So, my last video was released on February 14th when Bitcoin was trading around 42K. It was this date right here. And I was mentioning in that video that I would expect Bitcoin to hit 43K into 44K before a correction into 40K around the full moon. The full moon was on the 16th of February, and we saw yesterday that bigger pullback. So let's break down how I was able to anticipate all of this happening. So the bigger reason behind the number 43 and 44 was because of the total score we got during the Super Bowl, which was 43 points between both teams, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. And if you have not watched my last video, which was called Super Bowl LVI Decoded, go ahead and check that out. Even the Roman numerals of LVI were adding up to 43. So this was a big way that I was able to predict this all happening. And this 44 connection was because the Super Bowl happened on the 44th day of the year, and the team that won was the Los Angeles Rams, and Los Angeles is the city of angels, and that gives you the 44 in Chaldean. And definitely just go back and watch that last video that I put out because it broke down the whole Super Bowl by the code. So I essentially used the Super Bowl ritual numbers to identify the likely price targets for Bitcoin without even watching the game. So I also expected a pullback to 40K around the full moon, and this full moon was on February 16th, and we saw within 24 hours we actually got right down to 40K. I believe the lowest price I was seeing was $40,080, so it was within $80 to $90 of that perfect 40K level. And again, I was trying to share this in advance before this happened so that people could sort of prepare themselves for this bearish energy that we typically expect around full moons. And I was saying, based on how last February went, where we saw in February of 2021, we extended 10 days past the new moon and then came down perfectly into the full moon on our correction. And so far, this has actually played out exactly the same. So let's just look at February of last year and see how it recovered off of that correction. So again, let me just show you what I'm talking about here. Let me turn off these drawings to make this nice and clear. So here we have the new moon of February, and there we have the local top. So I'm going to measure from the full moon day up to the top, and you see it took 10 days to get through the bullish energy, and then it came down into a pullback directly into the full moon. You could see right there on the 27th was the full moon, and 24 hours later was the bottom. And then it was actually a pretty sharp recovery out of that. It only took about maybe 7 or so days to get back to the normal trading range of the prior local resistance. So that's pretty fast recovery. I'm not entirely sure how this one's going to go because this is a very special time frame as we transition into Pluto's return on February 22nd, and I have a little more information to share with you guys about that. But you can see here that after this full moon, we came up perfectly into the next new moon of March. So that's not me necessarily saying that we're just going to go straight up from here, but I do have a intuition that the month of February is going to end okay. And this is just based on the fact of we had a bearish divergence that needed to play out. I'm glad that we've gotten our pullback into this exact time frame, and now we needed to build a little bit of support around this level that we just blasted through on February 4th. So for those of you that watched my content last week, I wasn't really ecstatic about this big green breakout. So when we get these moments, it's healthier for us to come back and backtest key levels just to make sure we're solidifying this breakout. Basically, you break above and then you confirm your breakout. You confirm what was prior resistance as a new support. So this is really important because we do have a wick down right here, this wick high at 39,400, and that level would be nice to just come back into really quickly and bounce. I'm not saying we will absolutely go there because hitting 40K was good enough. And I know we're sort of trading around this level right now. This is important just because today the stock market is open and yesterday the stock market was super volatile. And one of the things to note about yesterday with the stock market being very volatile to the downside is the DXY, the US dollar currency index, didn't do anything. It was flat the entire day. And what was amazing to see was the USDT, the tether dominance, was skyrocketing. Like literally it was up 7% in a single day. So you guys got to think, where is all this money going? If all this money left Facebook stock a couple weeks back, if we've been seeing big corrections on things like PayPal and a lot of the other tech stocks, we're even seeing, the overall indices getting choppy, and they're blaming it on the news with Ukraine and Russia. This is all psyops. It's all news to fill the average person's head with a reason for why it's happening. But here you can see through my work that I'm showing you, it's all coded in. All these price targets and all these movements are happening for a reason. Right? And what's interesting about all of this is, again, going back to my last video, the Ram, because the Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl, the Ram is Aries, and Aries is Mars, and Mars is the god of war. So there's something to be said here because of this narrative that they're perpetuating throughout the world stage about war. And what's funny is on Wednesday, they were pushing out the news to eventually come to fruition on Wednesday that there was going to be some invasion, which again, people need to think critically, because if you're going to invade somewhere, you would never tell your enemy 1 week in advance before you invade them. That's just silly. But what is important is the fact that when it got to that day, nothing happened, and then the market did really well. It actually rebounded off of the quote-unquote positive news that there was not going to be an invasion, and then the next day, which was literally yesterday, they came out saying, oh, there's negative news again about the war. You see what they're doing here? They're just playing a tug of war with everyone, and realistically, all we needed was the full moon or the new moon to be able to understand why it was happening ahead of time. And you didn't need to watch the Super Bowl to be able to decode it. I didn't watch it. I was able to just look at the symbology of what was going on and make my call based off of that. So again, Facebook showed us the symbology with the tiger and the ox, which was the last year, the year of the ox, and this year, the year of the tiger, which started 18 days ago. And we've been seeing everything tied to Jupiter, everything tied to the tiger, everything tied to the symbology has been having a negative aspect. So it's pretty amazing how this is all working out. And even during this video right now, we're seeing a little bit of pressure on the market because the stock market opened 7 minutes ago. So while I was starting this video, the stock market officially opened. All the indices are live, so that's why we're getting this volatility, and we're even breaking that 40K level again. Like I mentioned, I would like to see a little back test of that 39.4. That would be really nice, just to confirm those levels as a new support. Rather than back here, they were definitely a resistance. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, we're around a full moon. Things can get way bloodier than we ever imagined. I'll give you guys some price targets to the downside as we get through this, but this was definitely important. So again, just a quick recap. On the day of the Super Bowl, we actually saw Bitcoin pretty much stuck trading at 41K. And this 41K was really important to remember because it is the inverse of the number 14. Okay, it's the mirror of 14. And the total score of the last Super Bowl between both teams was 43 points, and 43 is the 14th prime number. Again, this comes back to, let me show you, we have LVI, which is 43, and then I'll show you this is the 14th prime number. This 14 comes back to Ram 14 and also LA Rams 14 and Chaldean. So this was a huge ritual tied to all of that. And then, as I told you before, that 44 number, with the 44 being the day of the year of the Super Bowl, and then also the City of Angels giving us that 44. And in my last video, I broke that down pretty extensively. So we actually saw the price move up into that, and then a rejection right down to our price targets. And I just wanted to harp on this 41 number and the 44, how we were able to use that inverse price number to be able to determine where we would be in the short term, then the 44 to determine where we would move up to in the short term, and then the 40K level, which I shared because of the wick back on January 10th, and this wick over here back on the full moon of Rosh Hashanah. So we had Rosh Hashanah, the start of Shemitah, on September 7th, and then we have this pullback directly into the full moon of September, and we got that retest of around 39,500, which is the exact level that I just brought up to you guys moments ago when we were analyzing this little February 1st pump that had a short-term rejection before the breakout. So this is extremely technical, guys. This is beautiful to watch the code mixed with the technical analysis and seeing it all come to fruition. And always remember, we're in cryptocurrency. Crypto is extremely volatile. It's not about being 100% precise with all of this. It's just about being able to determine the overall energy of what's to come. This way we could be much more calm in navigating this market. While the average person sees a big red candle like this, we already anticipated that days in advance because we knew it was a full moon. We knew the exact price levels, and then we have the ability to utilize this code so that we could apply rhyme and reason to why it's happening. That's really important. That's something that's allowed me to be so much better of an investor because I could calmly invest and have a long-term time horizon where these day-to-day movements don't even faze me anymore. And I feel like that's very important for people, especially people who are crypto investors. So far, this is looking pretty good. And let's give a little bit of the numbers for the date that happened yesterday. So yesterday was the 17th, and let's look into this a little bit deeper. So the 17th yesterday was the 317 days left in the year, and that's the 66th prime number. So again, that's 66. That's a very important number in the elites, in the occult, I should say. So this day was also 73 days after last day of Hanukkah. So the last day of Hanukkah was 12/6, and you can see that equals 73 days. So that 73 is important because it's the 21st prime number, and that 21 comes back to Saturn. And we also know that anything that comes back to Saturn has ties to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has the creator being Satoshi Nakamoto, and Bitcoin has 21 million coins in supply. So we have that 21 being very powerful in all of this. Okay, so yesterday was also Thursday, which is Thursday, the day of Jupiter. And like I mentioned before, this connection to the tiger, the striped planet being Jupiter. And we just watched the Bengals lose the Super Bowl. And we watched Facebook Metaverse have a huge pullback in the stock with that symbology of the tiger that I shared a little bit earlier, giving us that negative energy. So we have another reason why we have negative energy. It was the reason actually why I thought that the Bengals would lose. I was getting more and more confident the more connections I was making with my decoding. So another thing is this date numerology of yesterday was the 61, and that 61 is the 18th prime number. All right. And this is important because the mirror of 18 comes back to the number 81. And this 81 and 18 is very powerful. And I'm going to show you really quickly. We know the number 18 is important in Judaism. And if we go to the first day of Hanukkah, which was the 28th of the month of November in 2021, to this day, it gives us 81 days. Again, the mirror. Another thing is it was 2 months and 20 days, which is the 22. And we know this 22 is important because we're in the Hebrew year of 5782, which reduces down to 22. But this 81 and 18 connection comes back to Venus, 81-18. And today is Friday, or Freya, for the day of Venus. Okay. So this was all about this sort of, energy. So also today, or moving into tomorrow, it will be the day after this day will be the 18 date numerology. So I'm a little bit interested to see how that's all going to play, because tomorrow, the day of Saturn, and this will be 2 months and 22 days since the start of last Hanukkah, essentially the first day of the most recent Hanukkah. So that might be a pretty big connection, because it's the 222 and we're in the 222 year in the Hebrew year of 22. And then tomorrow again is that 18. And this is all connecting back to Judaism through the Hebrew calendar. So it's very important stuff, and I'm really interested to see how tomorrow's going to go. Again, the stock market will be closed, so who knows, right? The volume lately has also been super low in the crypto market, and pretty much we've been seeing like this breakout or breakdown that's been going on. It's not really too supported by volume. So it's very interesting from a technical perspective. Anyone out there that knows how to read the charts. Now, one final thing to consider here before we move into the TA. If we look into the day of the full moon, which was the 16th, 2 days ago, and then we go to Pluto's return, the 222 date, we're going to be seeing it 6 days. So what I think is really interesting about that is, first of all, the date numerology of this day was the 60, which in the rules of numerology, you're going to remove that 0 and it comes down to 6. This was 6 days in between, and the date numerology of Pluto's return, the way that I like to add up the dates, is 66. So really fascinating how we're getting all these sixes. I do perceive this could be one of those days that's going to be extremely volatile. We need to wait and see. But wow, exciting times. This also is on a Tuesday, and this Tuesday is the day of Mars. So Martes, the day of Mars, the god of war, just like we saw the Super Bowl winners were the LA Rams. So perhaps this is a positive day, perhaps we could perceive it as such. Now, where I stand on this overall is I do anticipate the end of the month of February, by the very end, the 27th, 28th of February, for us to be recovered out of this recent correction. I don't want to give exact price targets necessarily, but I would not be surprised if we got back to that 44, even 47K level. Now, 47 is a very powerful number because 47 is the 15th prime number. And this 15 keeps coming back to Tiger. All right. So one last thing to mention that's pretty important, talking about these energies, and one of the things that I could help you guys out with when you're perceiving the code, is when we saw the 16th, the day that we had the full moon, I was making this connection for you guys where, let me just bring this back and put it into Rosh Hashanah for you. Now, the day before the full moon, the 15th day of the month of February, we had the 59 date numerology, and that tied back to Tiger with the 59. And then transitioning into the day of the full moon, it was 5 months and 9 days since the start of Shemitah. Again, 59 coming back to the Tiger. So it was just amazing to see that whole pivot point happening between those 2 days leading into the correction day, which again, I broke down for you guys earlier. And it's just so funny how Bitcoin hits 44K, and then the big day we have the loss, it's $3,300 down in a single day. So this big red candle was $3,300, again, coming back to 33. And this 33 number is, it's very occult. I've given information about this number quite a bit on my channel, but I just think it's so, it's so in our face. It is so in our face. They did everything around this Super Bowl, everything. And people that don't think that the Super Bowl matters on the world stage, you have a lot to learn, man. The Olympics, the Super Bowl, all the big sporting events, Hollywood. This is, again, who won the Super Bowl? It was the Los Angeles Rams. What is Los Angeles about? It's about Hollywood. Hollywood has indoctrinated the entire planet, no matter where you live. You could live in the smallest little village of any country in the world, and somebody knows about Hollywood movies, right? It is so influential in the way people perceive reality. The actors that are famous, the famous celebrity actors, are like gods to people. People literally take these individuals seriously. It's amazing. It's amazing how much influence Hollywood has. And again, Hollywood is what the Druids were using to make their magic wands, right? And this big connection actually between Hermes and Mars through the magic wand. So this is quite deep, and I'm very interested to see how the rest of this month will go. Again, as we transition into the month of March, which again is the month of Mars, again, all about the god of war. So let's keep this moving and look at some of the technicals for the day, since we are definitely getting a little bit of bearish energy right now. Again, the stock market is just brutal. Like, it's been chopping around negative day after negative day. It can't really pick where it wants to go. You could see just in the Dow Jones. Let me show you the chop. Look at this. It is ugly, okay, to say the least. So this type of chop we're getting, again, where every single top is around a new moon and every single bottom is around these full moons. It's beautiful to see how this moon cycle indicator that I shared with everyone pretty much a year ago has helped so much in being able to save a lot of, just wasted ideas and thoughts, when we could just be saving our energy and consider this moon cycle. So let's look a little bit into when we're going to get that next moon, that next new moon. That's very important. So you can see the next new moon is going to be on March 2nd. That's important because that's the 3-2 date. And that 32 is also showing up in Tiger 32. It's also showing up in Ram 32. So 32 and 23 are huge. Again, 23 coming back to Bitcoin with 23. Also tying us back to the moon with that 23. So we know that 23 is important by the code. It's the 9th prime number. And 9 is spatial infinity. It is everything, according to the Chaldeans and many other sophisticated civilizations that came before us. So we have something to consider here. It's this full moon energy. I'm sure that's what you guys want to know. How long can we anticipate this sort of energy in the market? And I'll let you know right now, it's typically a window of about 5 days after the full moon. So the full moon was on the 16th, and 5 days after would be the 21st. That is something to consider. And we could also consider the date of the 22nd again, because that is Pluto's return. So don't sleep on Pluto's return. It could be extremely volatile. It could be one of those days where we actually have a big pullback and then we just shoot right up the same day. I'm not saying that will happen, but that's sort of the stuff that happens on big key dates like that. It's a historic date. We have never had it numerologically. So this 2-2-2-2-2-2, pretty wild. And anyways, so from a technical perspective, we've pretty much met our downside targets, but whatever bearish quality we get from the stock market today is absolutely going to influence Bitcoin. Let's be open-minded to at least 5 days after the full moon, the 21st into 22nd, to get some bearish energy. Perhaps we could have a little bit of a bottoming structure. I could kind of draw something out to consider, maybe some sort of curve like that into the end. And it might be a cup and handle perhaps kind of finish. So anticipating maybe getting into these levels by the end, we have a little bit of something like this where we handle out and then move up. And this whole pattern will essentially, again, like my last video, it'll be a inverse head and shoulders. Now, if we look at this from a support level on the downside, there's not a whole lot to take into consideration besides prices. Besides prices, we don't have a ton of moving averages or anything like that to look forward to. This market has been extremely oversold and dramatic for quite a while now. So again, we are just kind of hanging out in there, and I'll show you some of the 200 moving averages on the 3-day chart. Something to take into consideration, the next 3-day closure is actually leading into the end of the week, our weekly close. And again, I'll be covering the weekly wrap up in my Red Pill episode, which is my Patreon Mastermind Community membership. Anyone who joins that, you'll get access to my next Red Pill episode, which I ironically believe is Red Pill number 47. Again, coming back to that 5th prime. But anyways, yeah, I'll be covering that and a bunch of altcoins to wrap up the week this Sunday. So I'm excited to share that information with you guys, and definitely excited to see how the weekly close goes for this week moving into the end, and see if we get that bullish energy recovery into the month of March. But on the downside, we do have these 200s, the 200 exponential, 200 simple, which is hugging the 236 fib. That would be a little bit deep, but that would not be weird. It's very possible, especially you can see right here, this 200 exponential is at the closure highs of the 3-day candles before we had the breakout. So 38K, that'd be nice. I wouldn't mind seeing a little dip down to 38K, but we just have to take whatever the market gives us. So on the downside, it's probably any deeper than where we're at now. We could spring back up from here pretty quickly, but any deeper, it's probably 38, maybe 37. And then on the upside, it would be this local high of 44 to 45. Once we're breaking that, we're essentially going to be continuing to the upside, probably into the bull trap area, like I've been warning you guys for quite a while now. So let's move into Ethereum. Ethereum's been clearly getting rejected off of this 55 simple moving average on the daily chart, which is this white moving average right there. It's a key moving average for anyone who's interested in how that all works. And also, I was mentioning not to anticipate a V-shaped recovery for ETH, and that is exactly what has happened. We see that we had our local highs, we had this V, but this was a lower high, and then again, we had a lower high, and we're still kind of chopping around and back testing these mid-range levels. So this is not a V-shape necessarily until we actually start recovering higher than the local highs. And because this structure has extended out now to multiple weeks, it's not a V-shape recovery. So I just want people to know, like, when I said that there would be no V-shape recovery, it's because I was looking at this like a long-term play. When people are living through this and seeing like this kind of happen, these big green days, they're like, oh, you know, this is, we're recovering. No, we're not. We don't recover until we regain structure. Okay. So when you're a technical analyst, you need to be paying attention to your local highs. You need to be paying attention to your moving averages. You need to be paying attention to your fibs. But more importantly, when you see this noticeable bearish divergence where you have here, you have the price highs at 4,100, but then the RSI is at 51 while we're actively trading at 63 RSI, but the price is at 3,200. You have to take that into consideration. Okay, so I'm just doing this to help people. It's not to be like making predictions necessarily. It's to help people learn technical analysis and how to combine this code of Gematria Numerology and Astrology along with it so that you could become a better technical analyst. And when I'm sharing my ideas and my probabilities, it's because I'm a human, and that's what we needed. Like at the end of the day, technical analysis is looking at data from the past and applying it to the now. And how could we most, with the most utility, take this information we have and apply it to what's to come. And with that being said, it's nice to know about these lunar cycles because even if we saw this coming right here, like if this was the bullish recovery, when we're sitting right here at February 7th and we know we have a full moon coming 10 days later, that doesn't mean we can't break below those levels. And look at what just happened. So I was telling everyone, if we see Bitcoin start trading below that 40,000 level, I would not be surprised seeing ETH get to 2,700, and just today we hit 2,800 on the nose. So Bitcoin is quickly, sharply bouncing from the area that we just went below 30K. This is just crypto, right? Like we've seen this before. So days like this, these are really great days for like quote unquote buying the dip because you see what Bitcoin does to the altcoins. And I even started accumulating yesterday. So again, anyone who joins the Patreon Mastermind community, you'll get access to seeing what I'm personally buying and selling. So I'll be updating everyone as I'm moving through this bearish energy and making honestly, probably my final accumulations before I release my exit strategy blueprint, which will be coming out into the first week of March. So that's another update that I'll be giving you guys at the end of the month. And I'll probably be doing a sale for my Mastermind course since I've had so many new people coming in to my work from 3T Warrior Academy and other interviews that I've been doing. Again, I'm so grateful for all these, all this community building that we're doing. I've been really working hard to interact with other channels and get rid of all this division that's going on in the YouTube space and in the crypto space and in the decoder space. I really want this whole year to be about coming together and helping everyone, coming together and being a big family rather than this, argument over the minutia. And I think we're definitely making something unique happen here on this channel. So with that being said, Bitcoin's price action will definitely influence ETH, and we need to pay attention to this 40K level. Any closures today for Bitcoin will probably indicate how the rest of this weekend's going, meaning if Bitcoin closes below 40K today, which we don't have a daily close till quite, a couple hours from now, I do anticipate we could see ETH and XRP swipe down a little bit. So we need to pay attention to that daily close. But I mean, the fact that Bitcoin just came down right now during the video, down to this key level, right within this wick, and it's sharply bounced. This is looking great for like a bottoming structure, and it's essentially called absorption when we have a sell-off and we're getting buyback volume that triggers very quickly after the moment. So with that being said, ETH looking beautiful, but we still need to consider structure until we start breaking above this 3,300 level and closing dailies above that 200 exponential moving average. I wouldn't start popping any champagne bottles. Okay, we got to be calm and let this play out. And on the downside, if we are to see any more bearish energy, this would be a key level right here, 2,710, and that's essentially in alignment with the 382 fib we have on the macro pull. So let's quickly go over XRP and see what's going on here. XRP's been really interesting. We have this 200 exponential here playing as the rejection level. Just like with ETH, we have the 55 simple moving average. So keep in mind this 200 is the battle zone for us. We have the 55 as our support level on the downside, and then the 200 exponential. So again, that's the 55 simple moving average. 200 exponential. We're sandwiched in between those two moving averages until we start closing dailies above there, and then eventually above the 200 simple. This is just kind of chop, and it's the same chop that we're dealing with Bitcoin, and potentially playing out the inverse head and shoulders structure that I've been bringing up to you guys, which I didn't see us continuing the bullish part of that inverse head and shoulders until after the full moon. Again, I was saying that even before the full moon. I was very confident that we wouldn't just keep mooning. I knew that we would have a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a pullback, which was what we would have wanted anyways. You don't want just straight breakout to heaven. You want to have structure. Structure should be welcomed by people who are sophisticated investors, and they're looking at this, methodically. So this is great. I love to see this pullback around this 55. I would like to see this hold. If it doesn't hold, we have obviously that 786 around 71 cents. But yesterday in the Trading Wolves, or actually in my Trading Wolves membership on Patreon, where we talk about trading, I brought up ad nauseum the idea of a 75-cent XRP, and I do believe I brought that up even multiple days in advance before it even hit that level, and we did perfectly hit 75 cents. So again, that was another, nice thing to see, because we're seeing confluence across the entire market, how it's playing out by the technicals and by the dates. And I really like that. It's not necessarily me taking any credit. It's just being able to, without emotion or without bias, be able to read the charts and interpret the data. That's what this TA is all about, guys. A lot of the time when people say TA doesn't work, it's because they're either learning TA from people who are very emotional and they have a bias, or it's because they don't actually understand what TA is, which it's looking at data from the past and applying it to the future with the highest probability outcome. So I would love to see this hold 74 cents. If it doesn't, it would probably swipe down into 72. Most likely, though, we're in a bottoming structure that'll be recovering into the end of the month. And then I would like to see, honestly, 87, 86 cents would be really nice. And that would be in alignment with a Ripple, with Gematria. So we have Ripple equals 86 and that 40, and again that ties back to Mercury with that 40 and that 86, and then this 103 is the 27th prime number, and that 27 again comes back to Jupiter in Chaldean, and that 27 in Chaldean comes back to Ripple in the same cipher. So it'd be nice to see that break and then probably solidify that local high right there at 86 cents, and then boom. So there we just used Gematria to be able to determine the next move and combined it with the TA. So also tonight at around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a live stream. For those of you that want to tune in, again, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be going live on YouTube. I'm excited to hang out with all you guys. Appreciate every single one of you. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day and weekend, and I'll be doing that red pill episode for the Mastermind community on Patreon coming up in a couple days. Much love.